We have always been an exporting country. That's the basis of our prosperity. Dan talked earlier about some bottled up Canadian market for oil and gas. It won't work. We need to export to Asia. Let's be real about that. Let's figure out how to do it well. You asked a question about local food production. I think any system needs resilience and variety in it. I do not think we can move away from the results of the Green Revolution and producing food at a highly efficient level for distribution. I would like to see us also nurture the kind of sustainable, green, home food, locally grown approach to food so that consumers have choice. And there's also resilience in the system. When we get everything too big, and there's a problem like we saw in September at XL, then we have a really big problem for everyone involved, for the markets, for the people producing the animals, for the people working in those places. We have to be more resilient and less concentrated. You know, I personally buy, and we go out of our way to buy, grass-fed bison, free-range chicken. We buy organic stuff because we believe in that. I'd like to see that facilitated more, but I think we need to acknowledge that a lot of food costs are kept down also by bigger systems, and we have to be moving through these ideas in an integrated way, making change over time perhaps, but we also need to acknowledge a lot of people have a higher standard of living and better food than they had in the past, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Thank you very much. Chris Turner.
Well, to begin with, I think that fundamentally, it's not an either or. We obviously do need free trade, but too much free trade, and free trade particularly when it's being expanded under treaties and other investment deals that never get discussed in Parliament, never get an open hearing, as in the Canada-China Investment Treaty. That's not the way we move forward. That's not the way we maintain public trust as we do this. At the same time, I do think we should be incentivizing things like distributed energy, local food production, really putting the tools in the hands of the people who make and use the stuff to make sure that the best options are also the affordable options. One thing I would say, specifically on food, is that we have made it entirely too difficult for farmers to change the direction they're moving in. I wrote a story about this for the Walrus magazine, which you can find via my website, called "The Farms Are Not All Right," that looked at how hard and how really admirably farmers in this country are working to barely hang on in a system they have almost no control and no say in. And I think we do need to be having a serious conversation, particularly around food and energy and water and other absolutely basic necessities, about where's security in this conversation. And certainly when it comes to food, for example, the only thing the federal government wants to talk about is reaching foreign markets, and I think that that's a really short-sighted way to talk about it.
Dan, you have 2 minutes.
It's a tenuous balance. 1 in 5 children goes to school hungry in Canada. And we need to keep that in mind when we make decisions based about exports. And so I'm not suggesting for a moment that it be a bottled up economy. I think, Harvey, you probably knew that, even though you acted as though you didn't. What I am suggesting is that we make decisions based on the full range of information that we have. And so there's nothing wrong with us exporting certain products, but we want to make sure that 2 things. Canadians benefit from Canadian resources. That's the most important thing in this context. And so before we start shipping our products elsewhere, we need to make sure that the folks here at home are taken care of. Just makes sense. Food insecurity is a very serious issue. Not only have we done a poor job of addressing food insecurity through our food systems, we've also done a poor job of addressing food insecurity through our income and wage systems. Lynn McIntyre at the University of Calgary, one of the best food security researchers in the world, has said very plainly, the answer to Canadian food insecurity isn't food. The answer to Canadian food insecurity is income. And so we have lost hundreds of thousands of high-paying manufacturing jobs since this Conservative government took power. That's part of the real issue when we talk about food insecurity. I will admit that I'm feeling a little bit offended. I'm feeling a little bit offended because Harvey suggested somehow that the rest of us are just noise, and that the Liberals are the only party that can take over for Stephen Harper. I remember the leader of the Liberal Party saying that in the 2011 election. I remember. No, sorry, Harvey.
And Stephen Harper took over in 2011. Did you notice?
Yes, I did. I also noticed how many seats in the House you've got.
I want to compete for the election. That's
No.
the only game in town. The rest is noise.
No, it isn't just noise. When you suggest
5
that the people of
seconds.
Calgary don't have a choice to make, your presumption.
I
just
didn't say
betrays-
that for
Yes, you
1
did.
second.
No, of course you
No,
did. You said
I
that it's a
didn't.
two-horse
No, I
race,
didn't.
Harvey, and
Gentlemen,
that just isn't the
sorry,
case.
I'm going to interrupt simply because there are some time pressures among the candidates.